Hello everyone, as you have heard, my name is Marchewka, and I would like to tell you a few things about collective intelligence in test and Scrum teams, with a special focus on the diversity aspect. So tell me, have you ever wondered why some teams perform much better than others? I'm sure you have, and I'm sure that any manager in this team has wondered it a lot of times. So there are, of course, many factors that impact overall team performance, like team size, team leadership, team stability, to name just a few. But today, I would like to focus on just one, collective intelligence. I would like to tell you what it really is, what is the definition of a collective intelligence, how can we measure it, because if we want to compare two different teams, we need to have some measurements. What are the predictors of collective intelligence? And by predictors, I mean the factors that correlate with collective intelligence. What diversity has to do with it all? And why it is important to have intelligent Scrum and test teams? And last but not least, how can you boost collective intelligence in a team, boosting in the same way overall team performance? So let's start with a definition. If you would Google collective intelligence, you would probably be pointed out to a Wikipedia page, which, by the fact, is also a product of a collective intelligence. And you'd probably see a definition like that. So collective intelligence is shared or group intelligence that emerges from collaboration, collective efforts, and competition of many individuals and appears in conscious decision-making. That's for the theory. But what it really means? So, are you familiar with a TV show that's called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? If you have seen it at least once, please raise your hand. Okay, wow, almost everyone has seen it at least once. It's a really popular game show. But maybe to make sure that everyone is on the same page, I'll go quickly through the rules. So, the participant is presented with a single choice question. There's one question, 4 answers, 1 answer is correct. The questions get more and more difficult throughout the game, and the participant can win more and more money. If he's not able to answer the question himself, he can call an expert. He can ask the computer to cross out 2 out of 4 answers, leaving one correct and 1 incorrect. Or he can ask a crowd, or in other words, the audience in the studio. So the research shows that if you ask an expert, in 65% of the cases, you get the correct answer. Quite a good result, right? But if you ask a crowd, the crowd will be right in 91% of the cases. And this is exactly how collective intelligence works in practice. Instead of using just one single expert's knowledge and experience, we are using the whole collective, the whole team experience and knowledge. Sorry. But maybe, hey, you might ask, is this just a quantity thing? So, crowd versus one person. But if you would ask yourself a question, if you take 2 teams with exactly the same size, would they perform the same way? Would they have the same measure of performance? From your experience, you can probably answer no to that question. So no, this is not just a quantity thing, and throughout the course of the presentation, I would like to explain you what's behind that. But to make sure that to assure you that this is just not kind of a theoretical mumbo-jumbo, I would like to show you a real-life use case of how collective intelligence is used by companies. So take Google. Google uses, among other things, PageRank algorithm to rate the pages that are displayed as a result of a search. PageRank algorithm basically ranks the pages according to the number of links that they are pointing to them. So in this case, Google trusts collective intelligence of the people all over the world that they can point out to a good and a high quality content. And as you already probably know, it works. So how can we measure collective intelligence? Because we more or less already know what it is. Probably all of you already know how to measure general intelligence. at least I think that you've heard about IQ tests, right? So the general intelligence should be understood here as a mental ability of a person to perform various cognitive tasks. We can compare it to, let's say, athleticism. If you are a very good runner, if you can run really fast, you are most probably better than average, let's say, tennis player or a swimmer, due to overall body strength and enhanced coordination. The same way is with general intelligence and the G factor that measures it. G factor is a variable that summarizes all the positive correlations among different cognitive tasks, showing that if you are really good in one type of mental tasks, you are probably better than average in other types of mental tasks. Say you are very good at solving puzzles. Most probably you are also good at kind of mathematical tasks. So the G factor was introduced by Charles Spearman, a British psychologist, in 1904. So this is a very well-established idea. The same way as we measure general intelligence with a G factor that's derived by a factor analysis, we can measure collective intelligence with a C factor. C factor is measured the same way. This is a variable that also summarizes the positive correlations, but within the group's ability to perform a wide variety of tasks, a wide range of tasks. This concept was introduced by a professor of Carnegie Mellon University, Anita William-Woolley. She performed a couple of studies on the different groups of people, and she tried to understand why some teams perform tasks better than others. She gave them puzzles, she gave them things to play with, she arranged brainstorming sessions, and she tried to find out what's behind that. So what's behind that? So what are the factors that really impact the C factor, that really impact collective intelligence, and in the end, team performance? So if you would think, like from a common sense standpoint, average intelligence of group members would probably play a great role in overall collective intelligence of the team, right? The next thing would be intelligence of the smartest person in the group. That's kind of, common sense thing. However, throughout the course of the research, it appeared that there are other factors that have great influence on the overall collective intelligence and team performance. Them being equal distribution of speaking turns. And this, I would like you to understand it that no one should dominate a discussion. Equal distribution, everyone can share their ideas, no one's left behind, no one's the most important person in the group. This is how equal distribution of speaking turns should be understood here. Average social sensitivity is ability to understand, to find out what are the other people's feelings in a room. So if someone's angry, the other team members understand that he or she is angry, and they can react accordingly. And last but not least, diversity. Throughout the course of the studies, it appeared that the first two, surprisingly, are not significant. They are correlated with overall team intelligence, with overall team performance, but not that much. They had a really, really small impact. The three below, however, had significant impact on the overall team collective intelligence and the way they performed different tasks. So I would like to focus on them. Let me start with a diversity aspect. Diversity should be here seen from analyzed from two component standpoint, if I may say that. So one of them is cognitive diversity, and for those of you who were here yesterday and listened to Isabel talk, you might already have an idea what cognitive diversity is. Cognitive diversity has nothing to do with a gender or race. It's more the approach to problem solving that emerges from different experiences of the people, from their different behavior, from their different upbringing. So, cognitive diversity has been proven to boost teams' creativity, boost teams' collective intelligence, but only if the task the team was working on was creative. If they had to design something, or if they had to invent a new product. In that case, cognitive diversity worked perfectly, because the people had different ideas from all over the world, from all over their experience. However, if a team was working on a repetitive task, on something that had well-established process, the cognitive diversity decreased the team efficiency. So the other aspect, the other component of overall diversity is indeed gender diversity. So at first, during the studies, it was revealed that the more females were in the group, the better group performed. But after digging a little bit deeper, it appeared that it had really not much to do with a gender, but it had everything to do with a social sensitivity. And this is quite obvious, right? If you understand what other people in a team feel, if they are angry, if they are happy, in what way they respond to the problem that's posed to them, you can communicate with them in a better way. And statistically, women have higher social sensitivity than men. It's been not revealed why is that. Is it because of genetics? Is it because of the upbringing? But this is how it's measured, and this is a fact. And now I would like to switch to the next part. So why collective intelligence is so important in a Scrum teams. So as you are all probably aware, Scrum teams are performing non-repetitive tasks. Right? If they are doing repetitive tasks, that's really bad for them. So non-repetitive tasks, and as I have stated previously, are performed very well by the teams that have high cognitive diversity. So they are very good and doing something right from the start, something new. Scrum teams also should be self-managing, right? Of course, there is a Scrum Master, but he's not the leader. He's not saying, do this, do that. He's rather facilitating the flow of the problem solving. So if a team is self-managing, social sensitivity, average social sensitivity with anything is very, very important, because we need to know what other people feel. Scrum teams are also cross-functional, at least they should be, because those teams should perform tasks of a developer, of a tester, right? So if a team is cross-functional, it needs experiences from all over the IT world, right? So if it needs so, it needs to have high cognitive diversity. And to give you an example how well collective intelligence works within a team, within a Scrum team, I would like to tell you a few words about internal Nokia project Molar. So Molar is basically a Python library that consists of bricks that can be used for automation purposes. And it's been specially designed to handle tasks like remote command execution. And why is it so interesting? Because this was created by a really cross-functional team, by the people from different backgrounds, by the people with development backgrounds, with test backgrounds, by the people with experience from different technologies like LT, CDMA. So they sat together and they were brainstorming about very, very specific issues that they had throughout their whole experience. So they have solved those issues. And it went so well that they decided to go open source. So if you would like to contribute to that project, you are very welcome. So they decided that collective intelligence within the Nokia team, within the team that they have created, worked so well because they were able to reuse all the experience that all the people had from their past lives. That they said, hey, why don't we try and go outside and collect even more experience from the outside world? They would help us, right? So another thing is, why is collective intelligence important in the test teams? So the same as with the Scrum teams, test teams should perform non-repetitive tasks. If they do perform repetitive tasks, they should automate them and never do them again. So for non-repetitive tasks, teams that have high cognitive intelligence perform much better. Also, this is really important, and we never should forget about that. Test teams usually work with user interfaces, right? So the more different people we have within the team, the more experience they can bring to designing or testing user interface. The more diverse the team is, the more likely is that in this team we will have a person that will do exactly the same what the customer will do. And this is really important because customers can use our product in very different ways. And the last but not least, exploratory testing. So what is exploratory testing? This is more or less, and it's been also talked about during this conference. Exploratory test is basically trying to break something based on your previous experience. So the more experienced the person is, the more knowledge he or she has from her previous projects, that this person in a more and unusual way can break a product. He can perform more and more much better exploratory tests. So a good example of using collective intelligence within a test team is a hallway testing. Is any one of you familiar with what hallway testing is? Have you ever tried it? Okay, not much. I don't see many hands up. So hallway testing is a kind of also user interface, usability testing. So basically it looks like that. You start a project, you are at some point, and you just grab a random person at the hallway and say, hey, do you have 5 minutes? Come here, sit down. Can you try do this and this in my program? And this person tries to do it. And by that kind of a testing, you usually reveal holes in your usability. Because this person has no idea how this product has been designed, but it has an idea of how this product should work from her previous experiences with different products. This is especially good with, let's say, end-user equipment like UEs or basically anything that the end user is playing with. And collective intelligence in here is used because you extend your team. You are not only relying on the people that are already working in your team, you're grabbing collective intelligence of the people around. So, last part of a presentation, how to boost team performance by using collective intelligence. This is quite simple. You just rely on two things. The first is diversity. So if you don't have a team, you can create it, and during the creation you can try to have as much cognitive diversity as there is. So you can try to pick people with different backgrounds, with different cultures, with different everything, so that they can greatly contribute to the product that you are preparing. You can also try to pick a decent amount of females to have a high social sensitivity. But what to do if you already have a team, and it's really hard to get more people because there's a hiring freeze, right? So what can you do then? So the cognitive diversity, you can use hallway testing, for example. You can go out there and ask a person to help you with a testing or with designing a product. You can ask an expert from a different team to help you with that. This is how you can boost your overall collective intelligence of a team. And what about social sensitivity? Well, it's not like it's been given once and for all, that you are born with it and you are not able to change it. Social sensitivity can be increased by, for example, specific trainings that you can get. Or maybe just by finding out that there is something like a social sensitivity, and this is important within a team. The next thing you can do is find a mindful leader. So if you are the leader of your team, that's an easy task. You can just work on yourself, right? So the mindful leader can create an atmosphere of trust within a team. If the people trust each other enough to feel good within a team, they will not be afraid to share and contribute fully to the product. They will not be able to throw out even very bold and wild idea. They will not be dominated by any other people. So mindful leader, the first thing that he or she needs to do is ensure the proper number of speaking turns, which means not allow anyone to dominate the discussion. So to make sure that we fully can reuse the collective intelligence that is already in a team. And if you won't remember anything of what I already said today, those are the two things that I would like you to remember. If you ever create a team, remember about those two things. Diversity, not only in the context of gender, race, or age, or anything, but also about in the context of cognition, and a mindful leader. In my opinion, based on what I know, those are the key things to make a highly intelligent team. And that's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and let's see the questions for you. So, what are ways, exercises to improve group intelligence?
Okay, so as we've discussed a little bit, right? Improving collective intelligence, the first step would be to really know what you have within the team and use it to the full. So make sure that you don't have a quiet expert in your team. I've seen it a lot of times. There is a person that's really good technically, but he or she is afraid to speak up because there are other teams that are dominating the discussion and throwing ideas, and he or she has an idea, and he thinks, well, okay, so maybe it's not that smart, I'll just keep it to myself. So make sure that each and every person in a group contributes to the team discussion, to designing a product. This is the first way.
Okay, next question is, how do you measure social sensitivity or cognitive diversity? So
social sensitivity, there are a couple of tests. There is a test that's called, it's really actually funny, reading mind in the eyes test. So it's measured like that a person is shown a picture of eyes of other person, and based on that, this person needs to guess whether this person is happy, angry, or whatever. And depending on how many correct guesses there is, the social sensitivity is measured. Those are all, psychological tools. So those are not like this is not mathematics. This is derived via tests. And cognitive diversity. Oh, I don't know a test for that, unfortunately. But if you would look at the team, right? So if you have a person that has been a tester for all of his life and the person that has been a developer for all his life, you can make sure that they are diverse. The same thing if you have a person coming from, let's say, China, and a person coming from Europe. You can be sure that their cognitive diversity is really, really different.
Okay, the next one is the long one. On the TV show, the audience doesn't have the opportunity to collaborate. They push buttons independently. Do you think collaboration improves or harms performance? Maybe louder people doesn't let smarter ones to vote.
Yes, so I would like to answer this in two pieces. Sure. So the first thing, if the collaboration helps. So it depends. In studies like that, with the collective intelligence doing tasks like guessing a number of pickles in a jar or answering that kind of question, if the people don't know what others think, they are actually more intelligent if they know it. Because if they know what other people think, that knowledge of those experts around them influences their own judgment. So in that way, cooperation can harm. But if we ensure the high social sensitivity, if we ensure that there is a good facilitator of a discussion, like a good Scrum Master, he can make sure that everyone has a right to say something, and there is no single person that dominates the discussion.
Last question. That's interesting. Can you think of an example when diversity could be harmful?
Diversity as in cognitive diversity? Yes. So if the task requires very fast and efficient communication, then yes. really cognitive diversity can be harmful because, let's say, if a person comes from China, as I've mentioned, usually that kind of person has restrained body language and doesn't speak for a long time when there is a silence. And the person comes from more, let's say, Italian culture, that kind of person is really loud and gestures a lot. So if those two try to communicate, it will be really hard for them because they wouldn't understand each other. So if a task requires fast and really efficient communication, cognitive diversity may be an issue. However, this can be mitigated by providing a proper cultural differences training.
Okay. We don't have time for any more questions.
Okay.
So thank you very much for a great speech once again. Eva Marchewka.
Thank you.